child, Black child, dies after the school refuses to perform life-saving care, even though they are bound by law to do so. Put up the picture full mask. The story is going to make your blood boil. Kaleiah Jones, 16 years of age, collapsed at her high school from a heart condition. The school staff stood around and did absolutely nothing, despite a state law that requires them to be CPR certified. The young Miss Jones should have been in good hands when she collapsed in her Virginia high school hallway from a heart condition earlier this year. After all, Virginia state law requires all school resource officers and nurses, as well as teachers and administrators, to be certified in administering CPR. State law also requires school officials to be certified in the use of automated external defibrillators, which are mandated by state law to be in every school. Now, you don't have to be a law school graduate to understand that a state law is not a recommendation. A state law is a requirement. It is a mandate. It is not a request. But laws are only as powerful as the enforcement. When there's no enforcement of the penalty, the law has no effect. So let's see. But despite the law, multiple teachers, multiple administrators, a school resource officer, a cop, and a nurse stood around the 16-year-old Black child for 16 minutes, neglecting to perform CPR, other than the school cop conducting chest compressions for 17 seconds. As a result, the young Miss Jones ended up dying, according to a wrongful death lawsuit filed last week accusing the school staff at Menchville High School in Newport News of standing by and doing nothing while the child died. Quote, the defendants' gross negligence and willful and wanton negligence to Kaleiah's medical needs caused her death. Had the defendants promptly commenced CPR and or used the AED, she would have survived. The lawsuit obtained by Atlanta Black Star states. Jones' family told local media the girl suffered from a condition called bradycardia, which is described as a heart rate below 60 beats per minute, when the normal rate is between 60 to 100 beats, according to the Mayo Clinic. Her mother, Kiana Stewart, said the school was aware of her condition, according to WAFB. Now, what does that mean, they are aware of her condition? Typically, when a student has a condition like this and it has been brought to the attention of the institution, they have a protocol docket, meaning if there's an emergency based on their medical knowledge of the student's issue, they know step 1, step 2, step 3. But the bottom line is everyone is aware of the potential issue. And if they were aware and had no protocol established, well, once again, negligence on behalf of the school. There's more. Quote, today and forever, my heart is broken. I wake up daily with the pain and sorrow that my sweet baby girl is not with me on this journey called life, Stewart said. Another quote, I would never get the opportunity to see Kaleiah fulfill every parent's dreams of getting her license, graduating high school, or walking down the aisle on her wedding day. The incident took place on the 20th of February as Jones was walking out of the classroom smiling and talking to a friend when she suddenly collapsed. The lawsuit refers to video footage which shows Jones collapsing at 1:09 p.m., prompting other students to seek help from the adults working that day. The students were then sent back to their classrooms. 3 security guards arrived within 30 seconds, along with a teacher named Lisa Molyneux. The assistant principal is Diamond G, arrived at 1:10 p.m. Newport News school resource officer Isaiah Washington got there at 1:11 p.m., followed by a school nurse, Turkin Tillotson, who arrived in a wheelchair at 1:12 p.m. Follow the timeline, 1:14 p.m. Then Principal Lisa Egoff arrived with the Assistant Principal of Operations, William Huffsteller. But none of those school officials made any attempt to perform CPR or retrieve an automated external defibrillator, despite there being 3 AEDs in the school. At 1:18 p.m., 9 minutes after she collapsed, Washington, the school cop, commenced chest compressions, but stopped after 17 seconds. It wasn't until 1:26 p.m., 1:26 p.m., after emergency medical techs arrived, that anybody made a serious attempt at performing CPR. But by then it was too late, because EMT told hospital staff that Jones had no pulses and was not breathing when they arrived. Jones was lifted on the stretcher, transported to a hospital at 1:46 p.m. The lawsuit states that Tillotson, the school nurse, tried to cover up their inactions when she filed or filled out the student health incident report by insinuating they had been performing CPR all along, which that was not the case. Now, here's where you get into intentional malfeasance. If you believed it was negligence prior, well, definitely I would make the case this is criminal negligence, because you have a duty to care. You have a responsibility. You have a required duty to care here. It is codified in state law. So even if you believe it's negligence, it's criminal, in my opinion. And now you get to the cover-up. The cover-up is indicative of a guilty conscience. The cover-up is indicative of they knew what the law was and decided not to do it. The cover-up tells me she was aware of what needed to happen, what was required to happen, but for some reason, all of these adults and this one child dying in front of them, it still did not happen. Quote, defendant nurse Tillotson entered a note into the student health incident list on February 20th, 2024, stating, quote, at approximately 1:20, SRO Washington came to the clinic and stated student passed out in the hallway and to bring the wheelchair to the hallway. The student was on the floor with Coach MO and security. AP was on the floor with student. 911 called when RN arrived. CPR started by SRO Washington. EMS arrived and began care. Student transported to hospital with principal and SRO. The note falsely suggests that CPR was promptly commenced and continued until the EMS arrived. As mentioned above, CPR was not commenced until 9 minutes following the collapse, and then was abruptly halted 17 seconds later. The lawsuit states that the Newport News School Board allowed attorneys and the girl's family to view the video, but refused to provide them a copy. The family is being represented by the Crudy law firm in Richmond, as well as our dear brother, high-profile attorney Benjamin Crump. Quote, the teachable moment starts now, just with the filing of the lawsuit, because you all are looking at Kaleiah's face. And I hope you're thinking about your children but by the grace of God, it could be your child. Crum said during a press conference. A similar incident took place in August in Houston after a Black 14-year-old male child collapsed at school, and the school nurse was recorded on police body camera footage stating that she was not trained in performing CPR or using AEDs. Once again, laws are not recommendations. You have a requirement because things like this can happen, especially when you're dealing with a youth population. At this point, there's nothing obviously that will make the family smile again. But hopefully there's enough justice here so that those who contributed to her death will be held accountable. And in the future, there's more enforcement so that we have administrators who are at least equipped and have a heart to do what's right by children, especially Black ones who don't get the care they deserve. Sharon, I was thinking about my own daughter here. I had an hour conversation with her last night. She's sophomore in college, doing very well. I would lose my mind. I would lose my world if something like this happened to my child. So I can't imagine what the family's going through. What say you?
So would I. As you relate each gripping detail of this disgusting tragedy, I felt like someone was blowing a hole in my chest.
Yeah.
So what it means, Dr. Richey, is this beautiful 16-year-old Kaleiah Jones would have a better chance of being alive had she played hooky from the place that was supposed to keep her safe and protect her. I think this meets the threshold of criminal negligence, as you alluded to. I'm not a lawyer, but I see involuntary, at least perhaps even voluntary manslaughter here. You didn't do the CPR. You didn't use the AEDs. You lied. And by the way, I've been an investigative reporter for a long time.
Yep.
That nurse did not fill it out in a vacuum. I also scent, I'm picking up the scent, I should say, of collusion. And I think this is just disgusting.
You make a great point about how she didn't just write this narrative arbitrarily, that conversations likely took place and then pen to paper took place, because if they're questioned, everybody has to agree with this report. All right, we're going to bring you updates as they come.